Okay, so we all use it, right? Every single day. But what is the cloud really?
It sounds so simple, but behind that one little word, there's this whole universe of crazy complexity, some seriously fierce competition, and, well, some pretty big security risks. So today, we're going to pull back that curtain and show you what you're not supposed to see.
You know, this quote from The Princess Bride just hits the nail on the head when it comes to the cloud. We throw the term around all the time, thinking it's this one simple, single thing. But the reality? Oh, it's way more complicated and, honestly, way more interesting than that. For years, for decades, we've seen these network diagrams with a little puffy cloud symbol that just means the internet. Some mysterious network that we don't really have to understand. We kind of think of it as this one big, fluffy place in the sky where our photos and our files just exist. But that's not even close to the full picture. So the magic that makes the cloud work it's not actually magic. It's a technology called virtualization. This is the absolute core idea. It lets one gigantic physical computer pretend to be hundreds or even thousands of smaller individual computers all at the same time. This is the tech that makes the sheer scale of the cloud even possible. What's really wild is how long this idea has been around. We think of the cloud as this super modern thing, but the seeds were planted way back in the 1960s. It took decades to get here, from virtualization tech popping up in the 90s to Salesforce proving you could actually deliver software through a website, before Amazon Web Services, or AWS, finally kicked off what we think of as the modern cloud era in 2002. So who are the big players in this space today? This chart lays it out perfectly. Look at that. Amazon's AWS is the undisputed leader, with almost a third of the entire market. But check out the competition. Microsoft's Azure and Google Cloud are growing like crazy. And that huge other slice, that's full of heavy hitters like Alibaba, Oracle, and IBM. This is not a one-horse race. It's a global battle for control of our digital world. Okay, so we've established it's not just one big thing, and it's run by a ton of different companies. But what are you actually getting when you or your company decides to move to the cloud? Well, it's not a single product you just buy off a shelf. It's more like a menu of services, and you have to pick and choose how much control you really want. All right, you're going to want to pay close attention to this slide. It's probably the most important one for really getting the cloud. Think of it like this. Infrastructure as a service, IaaS, is kind of like leasing an empty plot of land. You get the raw resources, but you have to build everything yourself. Then there's platform as a service, PaaS. Think of that as leasing a workshop that already has all the power tools. You just bring your project and start building. And finally, software as a service, SaaS. This is the one we all use every day. It's like renting a fully furnished apartment. You just move in and use it. We're talking about things like Google Docs or Salesforce. And it doesn't stop there. On top of choosing how to use the cloud, you have to decide where it lives. A public cloud is what we usually think of, services from giants like AWS or Google, open to anybody on the internet. A private cloud, though, is totally different. It's infrastructure built for just one single organization. It's all about having maximum control and security, which is why huge companies that have to meet strict rules often go this route. So far, so good, right? The cloud seems amazing. It's efficient, it's scalable, it's powerful. But this is where our story takes a bit of a dark turn. Because for all of its incredible benefits, the cloud has a shadow side. It's not always calm and serene. Sometimes there's a storm brewing. And listen, these aren't just hypotheticals. These are real-life nightmares that have actually happened to people. Can you imagine your provider going bankrupt, giving you just 30 days to move your entire company's data? It happened. Or what if a simple billing argument freezes your most essential services? Or worse, you get hacked and your provider basically says, tough luck, disaster recovery wasn't in the contract. The bottom line is, when you move to the cloud, you are placing an enormous amount of trust in somebody else's hands. And that trust, it can be broken. If you ask cybersecurity pros what keeps them up at night about the cloud, one fear stands head and shoulders above the rest: data breaches. But that's not all. Attackers can also hijack the cloud's incredible power for their own shady purposes or find weaknesses in the very tools we use to manage everything. You know, hacking the cloud isn't some kind of black magic. It's actually a pretty logical step-by-step process. Attackers start by looking for the easy targets, like data storage that's been left wide open to the public. Then they scan for weaknesses, poke around to see what they can find, and figure out a way in. Once they're inside, it's a game of getting more and more control, and then covering their tracks so no one knows they were there. And they're not just winging it with homemade tools. Nope, they have sophisticated toolkits like Paxu, which is basically built from the ground up to attack cloud systems. It can automatically find flaws, create hidden backdoors, and even mess with the security services designed to stop it. Let's be clear, the bad guys are very, very well equipped. So when things go sideways, when there's a breach, who's actually at fault? There's this great story about a security manager who had to tell an employee their computer got infected, and the employee just looked at them and said, "Isn't that your job?" That one simple question, it gets right to the heart of the single biggest misunderstanding in cloud security. This real-world case is the perfect answer to that "isn't that your job" question. For years, customers of Amazon were, frankly, just messing up. They were accidentally leaving their data storage, these things called S3 buckets, completely open to the internet. Now, the breaches weren't Amazon's fault. The users failed to lock their own doors. But the headlines still had Amazon's name in them, so eventually they had to change their own default settings just to protect their customers from themselves. And this leads us to what is, without a doubt, the single most important takeaway from this entire explainer. It's called the shared responsibility model. The cloud provider, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, whoever, is responsible for the security of the cloud. That's the physical data centers, the hardware, the network. But you, the customer, are responsible for security in the cloud. That means your data, your apps, your users' passwords, all of it. Security is a partnership. You can't just assume the provider is taking care of everything for you. So look, the cloud offers amazing benefits. The cost, the scale, the power, there's no debating that. But as every company and every one of us races to move more and more of our lives into these giant virtual data centers, it's really worth stopping for a second to ask ourselves, do we really know what we're getting into? Do we understand the deal we're making? Because in the cloud, what you don't see can absolutely hurt you.